Hi friends, David from Learn Stage Lighting here, and today I want to talk about this little guy, the Netron RDM10. What is it? Well, it's kind of hard to describe, but the way I best describe this guy from Obsidian Control Systems is it's a rack unit. It is a DMX splitter, yes. It is a DMX and ArtNet or SACN node, yes. It is a kind of standalone. It's got a lot of features under the hood that I think are really interesting. And so what I want to do in this video is talk about it, show you the physical on it, show you what it can and can't do, and walk through a lot of those menu options so that if you were looking at this and you're like, is this right for me? Is it not? This video will give you all the answers so you can figure that out. And of course, we are your Obsidian Control Systems dealer. So if you're watching this and you're looking for one of these and you're in the US, reach out to us, learnstagelightinggear.com. We'll have the link to the RDM10 down below so that you can grab it for your lighting rig. The RDM10, as I mentioned, is a lot of different things, okay? On the physical, so it's designed kind of like a DMX splitter, okay? It's got a screen and a button and a knob button to get control of things. And then it's got an A and a B, 2 DMX inputs, 10 DMX outputs. The reason why it has a screen is because you can assign these, okay? So it's not just 5 are A, 5 are B, it's whatever combo you want, okay? So it can be any two. It can literally be 1 and 10 are on A, and 2 through 9 are on B. I don't know why you do that, but you could. And so, really cool. So that's the front. Really nice finish. First of all, as Matthias from Obsidian Control Systems has said before, he likes expensive paint. The paint and just the finish on these is like super premium. Feels really nice, really solid. So on the back side then, you get 2 Ethernet ports. Okay, so it's an Ethernet switch, so it can take your Ethernet in and then go out to another device. Not only that, but the A port, which it's not like A is input, B is output. It's a network switch. They're both bidirectional. The A port also supplies PoE downstream. So if you have a PoE device, like I've got a EP2 over there, a Netron EP2, I can plug that in off this port and it gets power from the RDM10. So you don't even, if you are in a building with an existing network and it's, a typical network been set up by an IT department, you're not going to necessarily have PoE on your ports. Okay, that's somewhat unlikely that all the ports would be PoE ports because that just doesn't happen. If you're building the network for show production, you might buy a switch with all PoE ports, but in IT, typically not all the ports are. Okay, so that would pass through to that. Okay, then we have an A input and throughput and a B input and throughput. And my assumption in testing and using is that these match up with these on the front. It's just front versus back. And of course, the straight through on these ports. Then we have these terminal blocks. It says trigger, and there are 10 of them. What does that do? That's a low voltage trigger. So you can have up to 10 just little on-off switches, light switch, any sort of low voltage switch on and off, a door switch, anything. That opens and closes to set off cues that you actually store inside the RDM10. Okay, then there's a fuse, in case you blow it, and true one, input, and throughput. Yes, great for having a rack of units, bum, 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 just bounce on down. Okay, in the box, by the way, it's a beautiful box. Let me grab the box. I know you might say the box doesn't matter, and it probably doesn't, but look at how nice it is. The graphic design department did a lovely job. You open it up, there's some foam, there's a little book in there, and then there's your True 1 cable. Okay, so let's throw the box, grab a cable, boom, plug it on in. So like you could take this as your input, but if you have multiple units, you could chop off the country-specific end, in this case in Edison in the US, and put a power con on there, okay? Make it your throughput cable. Anywho, let's go ahead and plug this guy in. All right. So we're going to plug him in on the back, line him up with the camera real nice. Boom. So plug him in, watch the boot up time. It's pretty quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds in total. Okay. So you can see on the screen then, there's a couple ways to manage these nodes. Okay. So the first thing we see is with this on and with nothing really happening. Okay. We've got all of our ports on it are blinking. You see that? Our A and our B and all of our number ports, they're blinking. So blinking means there's no DMX, but it is assigned. All right. And all this, of course, is in the manual. Assigning these guys. So what we can do is, if I can figure out how to line this up to a camera, is there's a lot of settings already built in to the RDM10, and they're really powerful. So if you go ahead and go into the setup, you can set these up completely from the menu system, or you can access it via a web browser at its IP address, or even better, download the Netron CLU software, which will allow you to control it remotely, okay, on a network when it's plugged in. Okay, so setting these guys up on the table though, real easy. So you can spin the wheel and you'll see different statuses. Okay, so just as an example, this is all your DMX values, but the home screen shows you where A and B are coming from. So right now it's set at IP, meaning so they're coming off the network. So I didn't explain that actually. So it's a DMX node. So that means you can send 2 universes, ARTNet or SACN, or just one and have a hardwired one. You can send those over your network from Onyx, from any lighting software. You send those 2 universes of ARTNet and SACN, they're received into this unit. Then you have the 10 ports of output on the physical front, and you can assign who's A and who's B. Again, so it's not just the inputs on the front that split to these, but it can be over the network. So now, like you're doing a little corporate gig, like I used to do all the time, and I still do them occasionally, and you have a front truss and some floor stuff, or a front and a back and some floor stuff, right? And it's well within 2 DMX universes, okay? On a lot of other consoles, you'd be like, oh, you know, I'll patch that out to 6 universes just to make it easy so that, you know, each output on the back of the desk goes somewhere, right? Or you just get an RDM10 and you just go, oh, I just need 2 universes. I need, my front truss is going to be universe 1 that has the most stuff on it. And then everything else is universe 2. All my other ports. And so it's like I've got left stage, right stage, you know, the back, the upstage truss, and maybe a few more. You know, when they add a hazer or something, I just take a port, straight line to the hazer, done. You know, easy. So anywho, so that's what the IP stands for. It also shows the merger. The merger is really stinking cool. We'll talk about that in a second. If there is a merger, if it's active, and then the IP address at the bottom. So if I hit the knob, hit it on the button, first thing I get is presets. Presets are really cool because the Netron team has built-in presets, and you can save your own presets into here as to just functionality mappings. So if you're going and setting this up, and say you're like a corporate event company, like or a music production company, and you go, okay, console A, we always use it this way. Console B, we always use it that way. Store them both as presets. Now when it's going out for a gig, instead of being like, okay, cheat sheet, console B, set IP address in this range, set ports to this and this and this, it's like, no, you just load the program and all your settings that you used before are right back again, okay? So anywho, presets, Netron presets. First one, simple, splitter A-B. So A and B come in, 5 ports A, 5 ports B, okay? 2, splitter A, so just 1 port, splitter the whole way across. HTP merge, LTP merge, okay? So highest takes precedence, latest takes precedence. We're not going to go deep into that here. 5, backup. 6, toggle, ARTNet, dual ARTNet, SACN, dual SACN, and there's a few more, okay? It's different IP address ranges. You can hit back to get out of those. So there's a lot of great options there, including the mergers. But then you can go in and you can set things manually. Let's go ahead and do that. So if you back out of here, now you got DMX inputs, okay? So what this allows you to do is set your input A, B, and merger. So your source can either be network or hardline, okay? Or the hardline DMX. You can set whether RDM's on or not, okay? There's also send value, which just sends out a straight DMX value for triggering options. There's a lot of options here as to how to set things up. And the cool thing is you can merge any ports. So if you turn on the merger, now you get the option to merge another universe in, okay? So merge is HTTP, LTP, or toggle on the RDM10. So what that means is you basically set up the first universe, whether hardwired or network, and you say, hey, on this universe, we're sending in data. Then we can merge either highest takes precedence, whoever has the highest value wins, or latest takes precedence, whatever has the most recent value wins the output. You got to be careful with LTP because things can take over each other and it can get kind of funky. But then again, HTTP is not perfect either. What I do love about both these guys and the mergers built in to the EN4, EP4, EN12 units, those 3 units, are the backup mode. So let's take a look at that. So the backup mode, back into the menu because it times out, allows you to go ahead, you go to merger instead of input A, input B, you go to merger under inputs. And then I set it to backup. Now backup allows us to have a time it waits before it goes to the backup, a time it waits before it restores, the DMX frame rate, etc. Okay, so what that means is if we back out of that here, okay, it says merge, it says mode, source, and then backup A. All right. And so what that means is it's now creating a merger for, I believe, port A that makes it a backup merger. And a backup merger in these Netron nodes means if say you've got network, okay? You've got network coming in from Onyx from any other lighting console. And you go ahead and you turn off your system, okay? You unplug your network, you turn off DMX output, whatever, you're done for the day, okay? When that happens, the node says, oh, I'm in backup mode, okay? So my backup universe, in the case of this RDM10, that's a hardwired universe, okay? That hardwired universe now gets output. So now that could be a simple DMX wall panel control, like we sell the Springtree ones. You can get the Doug Fleener ones, the Megalite ones, there's other options, okay? It could be a little lighting console that's secondary that takes over, maybe just a PC software or something that the venue crew can use, right? The house staff or whatever, they can press some buttons on it. And the cool thing about it is now you can turn off your main console and this node, this Netron node, handles the takeover to the backup console. Okay, now previously, if you wanted to do this, you had to go and you would have to have some sort of processing system, some sort of architectural control system. It would get expensive real quick, okay? But that's built into these guys, okay? Also built in are the triggering. Okay, so the trigger options on the back, we mentioned there's those trigger plugs. And you can go ahead and go into queues here. And you hit save queue, you capture DMX input, okay? You can name it, etc. And then you can have that queue be set up under the remote inputs. You go to your input number, you tell it to run queue, you set the source. Now that's cool because the source actually, it can be the triggers on the back, it can be the DMX port, I believe it can be network ports too. Yeah. It can be ArtNet, it can be SACN, it can be the contact, or you can disable it. Okay. And then, just to walk it through, we'll set it to contact. And then it sets run queue. It can fire a preset. Okay. So you can literally put a switch on the wall in your venue that turns this from like a splitter to a node or vice versa. There's a lot of capability here, but where I was going was the triggers on the back, low voltage out to a switch of some kind, low voltage back in. Boom. That can trigger a queue which you captured from DMX, so you saved DMX in, you saved some look in your lighting rig, that cue fires, and now that kind of overrides everything in the console. So a minute ago, I was talking about, okay, you get yourself a DMX wall station, you have that on the wall, you have your 8, 10 presets, whatever, and you can fire those right all day long. Set it up as a merger, set it up as backup, you're good to go. Well, you could also set up a light switch, okay, just a simple on-off toggle switch. This one, with the cues, you probably want to have that switch in a secure location. So like in an equipment rack or something like that, where someone can come in, you know, venue staff, whatever, turn that thing on. The cue fires in the node, you get the lighting look. Okay, simple. The one caveat with that is those cues, and they do design it, you can set it up with emergency systems and stuff, they take over output. So if your console's running, those cues with the triggers can't be set up to like backup mode. They take over output immediately. So you do have to be careful with those. Don't make that something that's like publicly accessible because it'll get pressed during a show. It could even be like next to the console in a tech booth, right? So that if someone's operating the console, the switch isn't going to get hit at the wrong time because someone's there, right? And so there's a lot in these guys. I think we've run through pretty much everything. As I mentioned, DMX ports, you literally just go port 1 through 10 on the side here. You just go to the port, you set the source, input A, input B, merger, or disable. So that means by port, you can actually set whether it's part of the merger backup scheme, or it's input A, or it's input B. Okay, and those A and B, again, can be the hardline input, or you switch over the whole input to the network input. Okay, so there's a lot of capability built into this node. I hope you can really see this, the RDM10, because now it's like, okay, there's so many things you can do with this. You can have it, you know, like I think the perfect solution for this is like great for installs, great for production companies, because, and people doing live events, because it's like, oh, one day I need this as a DMX splitter. You know, one day I need this as a node with multiple outputs of the same type, okay? Because this has 10 plugs on it, right? And buying a Netron, and this is less expensive than buying a Netron RDM10, you know, and it's got some different capabilities. You know, the next day, you know, maybe you buy a new one and it's installed in a venue, and you need to have a remote trigger for some emergency lighting that's on a switch or something like that. And you want to have, maybe your console comes in via network DMX, and you set up a jack for port B as a backup, so that a supporting band or a visiting headliner or something like that can come and they can plug right into the node with their one DMX line for your one universe house rig, and they can send DMX all day long. But if your console's on, they won't get output, right? And so you can set it up as a merger that way. There's just really so much inside here that make this a really cool tool, again, for people that do a lot of different types of setups, where one day you need a node with a lot of outputs, the next day you have a hard DMX line and you need to split it 10 ways, the next day you want to do a backup situation. This guy just makes it so easy. Like, if we had had this thing, you know, like 5 years ago even, you know, there's so many situations where it's like, oh, we used to get these AB console switches, or use a dimmer rack and activate the second port and make sure the headliner wasn't sending output while we were, you know, and there were so many ways that it's like we had to set up, you know, primary backup consoles, things like that. And you can still do that other ways. And sometimes if you're doing a primary backup console, if it's the same console, it's not all that difficult. But this guy, what I'm trying to say is, it's a really good Swiss Army knife. It's a really good device that just covers so many bases, does so many different things, and yet really doesn't break the bank in terms of cost when you consider that it's an RDM capable splitter, that it's a 2-port DMX node, and it has the triggering and the backup and those other utilities available, which can be great in a myriad of situations. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too long for you, but if you did and you're like, hey, I do need an RDM10 in my life, then head over to Learn Stage Lighting Gear. We've got the link to the RDM10 below, and you can get it from us. We would love to be your dealer, and certainly if you learn from us, this is free, we would love to be your dealer for all lighting, including this. So head over to Learn Stage Lighting Gear, check out what we've got. You can submit quotes or just buy directly off the site, and we'd be glad to serve you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.